Welcome back everybody to another episode of our weekly Moto News Roundup, where this time around we've got the latest on Moto Guzzi's upcoming new middleweight naked, and potentially a revival of their cruiser platform, but this time with one big twist. Then we've got an impressive speed test from CF Moto, more plans for Honda's e-compressor, and a new spin-out brand from CHIGEE Motor. On top of that, Ducati launch another dirt bike, Aprilia a special edition of their naked, there's a recall on the Tenere 700, and we'll round off with more signs of recovery at KTM. But before we get started, a massive thanks to Breakfree for supporting the channel and sponsoring our news coverage. And if you've ever been curious about this particular product, then of course there are links down in the description below. A quick voiceover to kick things off though, because KTM have just announced the new 2027 790 Duke, just as I was about to publish this video. Now we knew this one was on the way because we saw the spy shots a few months back, and as expected there's a new styling package very much influenced by their other bigger nakeds like the 990 Duke and 1390 Super Duke. So up front there's that new headlight design, which personally I quite like. I know it's very modern, but I do think it brings this bike up to date, and that update to the styling extends to the rest of the bodywork and right through to the new subframe. Then we've also got plenty of changes to the chassis. The WP Apex suspension now gets a split function fork with adjustable compression and rebound, plus a new 5-step toolless preload adjuster on the rear shock, so that should add a little bit of convenience. Then the brakes are also now from their in-house brand WP, with them recently moving into brakes as well, and the tyres have been bumped up to Pirelli Diablo Rosso 4s as standard. They also say they've tweaked the riding position to make it a little more open, so perhaps a touch more comfort too. They've managed to shed a couple of kilograms off the total weight, but I think the big story here is actually the death of their highly controversial demo mode. This feature unlocked all the electronic goodies like the quick shifter, the extra riding modes, the cruise control, but only for the first 1500 kilometers after you've ridden out the dealer. Once it hit that threshold, it then shut them off, unless of course you decided to pay to keep them. Now, as you can imagine, most people absolutely hated this idea, the idea that the stuff would be on the bike, but it would shut itself off. But the new 790 Duke, looks to be the first to withdraw this feature, with the rest of the lineup to follow. Now, to be clear, in their own words, they say, most importantly, we listened and we acted. Rider feedback has been taken on board with intent, leading to the phased withdrawal of demo mode from future models. A clear decision shaped by those who ride. So look, I think the right move given the reaction, perhaps influenced by their relatively new owners at Bajaj. Now, remember those spy shots of a middleweight retro Moto Guzzi that I published about 2.5 years ago now? Well, unfortunately, there were no further developments after that. It's been very quiet on that front, and I thought it was a bit of a shame because it could have been a really good bike. The 400 segment is absolutely booming at the moment, so I think it'd do well in there. The 457 parallel twin that they've borrowed from their sister company at Aprilia is a great engine, so I'm sure it'd work well here too. And it still had a couple of bits of that Moto Guzzi signature design to give it some extra visual appeal. Well, perhaps the long wait is now finally over, with more spy shots landing on my desk this week that appear to show a bike that's pretty much ready to go. There is a lot of black gaffer tape all over it to keep it disguised, but other than that, well, there's no sensors all over it. It's got the lighting in place, the mirrors, it looks homologation ready, and so this does give us a pretty good idea of what this bike could be like. The engine is kind of obvious. Like I say, it's lifted from the Aprilias, so it should make around 47 horsepower peak and 43.5 newton meters of peak torque, assuming they don't really make any significant changes to the tune. Where it will start to diverge though is with the chassis, with a couple of significant differences, with one of them being the frame. The Aprilia gets an aluminium twin spar, whereas this one you can see a little bit of tubular steel on show, and so maybe that's been done to better suit the sort of retro image of this particular application. The only downside of course would be potentially it could add a little weight, with one of the appeals of the Aprilia Tuono 457 Naked being its super slender weight at just 175 kilograms wet. Elsewhere though, well, there are some similarities with the braking. It's got the single single radial bi-brake caliper up front. The upside down fork looks pretty similar as well. Wheels are cast aluminium, 17 inches front and rear, so again, same as the Tuono 457. But it's the rear suspension that looks a little bit different with a very unusual approach. You see, it's a monoshock, so I guess it should give you current day performance, but it's been mounted off to the right hand side in the sort of orientation that you'd more so associate with twin shocks. So I don't know if that's been done to give it the look of a more authentically old school bike, at least from the right hand side anyway, and I suppose it does have some visual continuity with some of their other bikes like the V85 TT. Up in the cockpit, well, it looks like a little fly screen is there to shroud a rounded off TFT dash, and so expect a lot of the same 457 platform rider aids like the 3 riding modes, traction control and ABS, and the connectivity and so on. So look, all sounds pretty good to me, but I guess the question is, well, what will they call it? And a trademark spotted by motorcycle patents and leaks extraordinaire Ben Purvis suggests that this one is going to be called the Moto Guzzi Trip 500. It was filed by their parent company Piaggio, along with this logo, which of course matches their current brand style, and of course the 500 part would make sense with that 457 engine. It is a bit of an unusual change for Moto Guzzi though. Normally their bikes are called like V7, V9, V100, but then again that is a reference to their longitudinally mounted V-twins, a signature technical feature, and so with this one being the 457 parallel twin, well, it probably wouldn't really have been appropriate to call it, for example, a V457 or V500. Anyway, as always, love to know your thoughts on it. I'd like to hear what you think of the name as well. And also, would you consider this versus the likes of the Enfields, for example, or the Triumph Speed 400? Meanwhile, though, that Aprilia Tuono 457 Naked that I just mentioned, well, it looks like it's had a bit of an update this week, with numerous Indian outlets reporting on a new special edition. I'm not seeing it on the UK press site, so perhaps this one is Asia only, but it's said to have a few refinements, including the suspension, along with a couple of nice new paint jobs, so a black version and a white. Now, if you look at all the changes they've made, I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that maybe they've had some feedback in India that this bike isn't particularly comfortable, because the new suspension tune they specifically call out as being better over rougher surfaces, so maybe a bit more comfortable over some of those less than ideal roads. And also there's more padding in the seat, which really does seem to be aimed at solving exactly the same problem. Then the bars also sit a little bit higher, so again the rider's more sat up, less weight on the wrists. And there's also now an adjustable brake lever and a bit of a fly screen up front. Now I believe the price is a little more than the standard bike now in India, but I think to be expected for those multiple improvements, and probably worth it if it is substantially more comfortable. But anyway, back to Moto Guzzi, although focusing on the other end of the motorcycle sizing spectrum, with perhaps a return for their heavyweight cruisers, albeit with a significant difference. You see, they used to have a really quite hefty 1.38 litre V-twin for bikes like the Audace, the Eldorado, the California and the MGX21, but it was discontinued in 2020 when Euro 5 emissions regulations came into effect. Now naturally an engine like this for cruisers really does focus on, you know, bottom end torque, really lowering the revs, and so I guess the thinking behind this pattern is how can they get something similar in terms of the way it delivers its power without having to develop a completely new engine platform. This pattern, again from Ben, appears to show, though, a modified version of their current liquid-cooled 1042cc V-twin from their V100 Mandello Roadster and the V100 Stelvio adventure bike. So this big change, though, well, it's actually been adapted into a hybrid, and that's potentially what could give it that big bottom-end torquey boost. You see, it could run in combination with the internal combustion engine to really give it a shove off the line, but also the pattern does cover the electric motor running on its own for low speed stuff around town, so that'll make it more efficient and also lower emissions. Interestingly as well, there's also the mention of the bike locking into second or third gear when it's in electric mode, with the electric motor's torque and super wide rev range meaning only one gear is needed, But then when the IC engine kicks back in on the open road, well, of course, you can then open it up and choose the gear yourself. So yeah, a bit of a techie kind of cruiser job, and that's left me a little bit torn on whether I think that something like this could ever be a success, because on the one hand, a lot of the most successful cruisers really do focus on old school simplicity. Think of most of the Harley lineup, for example. But then again, there are exceptions to it. You know, the Rocket 3 or the Ducati Diavel or even Honda's Rebels, which do sell pretty well, all have a lot more modern features and modern spec. So what do you think? Could it be a success or not? And is anyone really looking for a hybrid cruiser? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Next up though, well, more developments are still coming out in relation to Honda's e-compressor platform, with their 3-cylinder 900 said to be on the horizon pretty soon. We also reported recently that they've submitted paperwork that suggests they might use it in other engine layouts as well. But this week, it's emerged that they filed multiple new patent applications in Japan related to using, forced induction or this electronic compressor in some existing specific models. So one shows a supercharged version of a Gold Wing with its big flat 6, which I think would be phenomenal, while another shows it fitted to their NC750X All-Rounder, which currently runs a parallel twin. Then there's a 600cc V-twin, presumably a slimmed down version of the V3 900 in that prototype bike. And then lastly, a couple of inline 4s, so one a little more retro styled like the CB1300F, and another being the Fireblade. Now, the designs state that the e-compressor only kicks in when you need maximum performance, but it's off the rest of the time when you're riding steady in order to maximize efficiency and emissions. Pretty much all those applications sound interesting to me, especially a e-compressor Gold Wing, and so let's hope that some of them do come to fruition. Now, Shanjiang in China currently own a number of brands, including their own QJ motor. They've got Benelli as well and Morbidelli, but it looks like their range might expand further soon, with a Turkish car importer applying for a trademark of the Montiera name along with a logo in numerous countries including the UK, EU and US. Now, at the same time, QJ have also published a design registration of a new 650 V-twin adventure bike, which uses the same name and logo and looks to be a derivative of their QJ branded SVT 650X. So look, Chinese brands have a bit of a history of buying up disused European names like Benelli and Morbidelli in this example. I guess it offers a little more familiarity when they're trying to establish themselves in, European markets and such. But I don't believe Montiera has ever been used before, and so maybe they're trying a new approach where they come up with a new name that's not necessarily associated with their big, broader company, but maybe hasn't historically ever been used before. It'll be interesting to see if it works, but I guess more to follow soon. Anyway, it's time for Comment of the Week, where I pick my favourite from the last episode, and then at the end of the month, I pick my overall winner, who receives a breakthrough unit of their choice. Now, last week we looked at the new Harley Superglide, and so I have to go with Uncle Wally 3, who commented, maybe it's just me or a North American thing, but when I look at the Harley, all I see is Super Dave Osborne. And honestly, I've never seen Super Dave before. I think I'm either too young or it's never really a thing in the UK. But I did end up in a YouTube hole watching compilations for about half an hour, and I've got to say, it is excellent. Thoroughly recommend checking that out if you want to laugh. And so thanks for that, Uncle Wally. Anyway, back to the bikes, and this week CF Moto set an impressive top speed with their currently in development V4 Superbike. It's called, of course, the V4 SRRR. We first saw it at EICMA in November last year. And on the 5-mile oval at the CCCC Automotive Proving Ground in China, well, it's said to have done 315 kilometers per hour or 196 miles per hour. So if you had any doubts that a Chinese company could be competitive with the likes of Ducati Bugatti or BMW? Well, it does look like they're in with a shout, with the claimed 210 horsepower from their 997cc V4 seeming like it could actually be about right. I guess though the big selling point of most CF motos is the price. They almost always substantially undercut the competition, of course partly owing to their Chinese construction, and so it'll be very interesting to see if they can hit the same formula with this amount of development required to hit these sorts of performance levels. Speaking of Ducati though, well, they've just added another off-road bike to their lineup, which up until now has solely relied on their 450 single with just a couple of variants. This one though is a smaller take, the Desmo 250MX, weighing in at just over 100 kilograms with 44 horsepower on tap from an engine that can rev up to a blistering 15,000 RPM. How have they done it? Well, it's got their signature Desmodromic valve train, of course, along with titanium intake valves, and it also shares a bore and stroke with one cylinder of their Panigale V4R. The rest of it though, the chassis and so on, is shared with the 450 version, but with that smaller engine, this one does come in a little bit cheaper at £8,995 in the UK, as opposed to just over 11 grand for that 450. To be fair though, 9 grandish is still quite steep. If you look at some of the other 250s from KTM and Honda, well, those come in at under 8 grand. And so the Ducati tax yet again applies, even if it's in a different market segment, although it does look the business and one assumes goes pretty well too. Now, a massive thanks to Jack Sloan from Utah for sending me this pic of his Scrambler 1200 XE, complete with a Zard exhaust, a roll bag on the back, a tall fly screen, and some of the silver parts powder coated black for a bit more of a stealthy look to that lower half. Very nice indeed, and immediately ready for some adventures, so very much enjoyed seeing that. And it made me think, if you want to send in a picture of your bike, then email it to enquiries@motobob.cc, and if I get enough sent in, maybe I'll turn it into a regular segment. Now, over at Yamaha though, there's a recall on the Tenere 700, with some bikes having an issue with their indicators or turn signals for our American audience. It's for 2025 bikes, and while it might not sound like a hugely technical or substantial issue, well, of course, owners have been advised not to ride them, as it could get you into a nasty accident if another road user, thinks you're about to turn in but you're not, or vice versa. Apparently as well, the whole dash has to be changed, because the issue is the way that the dash manages the lighting and the way that it communicates with the indicators. So not a cheap one to sort out for Yamaha, and almost 5,000 bikes are affected in the US and Canada where this particular recall has been issued. No word on the rest of the world yet, so maybe it's just this batch, but also if I owned a 2025 T7, maybe I'd just be keeping an eye out for that one. Finally, Motorrad Online report this week that KTM's recovery continues, with them back in the top 5 best-selling motorcycle brands in Germany for May 2026. Now, for reference, in the UK for the same time period they were number 8, so not quite as good, but of course there are some regional differences to buying habits, but all the same, especially in Germany, it'll make for some good reading for those at KTM. As always though, I'd love to know what you think of this week's story, so do let me know down in the comments below. And if you missed this week our review of the 2026 Trident 660 and my comparison of the Ducati Hypermotards, then I'll put a playlist on the screen now so you can catch up. Do hit subscribe for more of the latest motorcycle news and reviews right here on MOTOBOB. A massive thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next video.